You're listening to the Turn Autism Around podcast, episode number 203. Today, I have two guests on the show talking about caregiver support online and in person. We have Kate Swenson back for the very third time. She is the founder of Finding Cooper's Voice, Coop's Troops, and the author of Forever Boy. And we have Amanda Deluca. This is her second time on the show. She is an IEP master coach, and they formed a nonprofit called More Than A Caregiver. And we talk all about what parents need, why they created this caregiver support group, and some live events, one of which I am going to be speaking at in April. So it's a great episode. Catch up with Kate Swenson and Amanda Deluca. Let's get to it. Okay, I am so excited to get to speak with Kate and Amanda. Kate Swenson from Finding Cooper's Voice and Amanda Deluca, who's an IEP expert. They both were on the podcast before. Kate, this is her third appearance. And so today we are going to talk about their nonprofit called the More Than Project. But before we get there, I know we're going to link your other podcasts in the show notes at marybarbera.com/203. But why don't we catch our listeners up? And Kate, can you very briefly describe your fall into the autism world and kind of what you're doing now?
Yeah, so my son Cooper is now 11. He is a tween. He was diagnosed with autism at 3.5. Could have been diagnosed much sooner, but we were still hanging on to speech delay, developmental delay, that sort of thing. We had some rocky years. We had some learning years. I had created my Facebook page, Finding Cooper's Voice, wrote my book, Forever Boy, to help bring people into our world and find others that were like us. And flash forward, I'm here today sitting with close to Amanda, I guess, to talk about our nonprofit. So excited.
Cool. Okay. And Amanda, why don't you tell us about your fall into the autism world?
So right around 12 months, we started seeing language regression. He wasn't responding to his name, wasn't making eye contact. So we started asking for referrals, but it wasn't till 2 that we got our official diagnosis, wait lists, and things like that we're all aware of. And Jackson was nonverbal until the age of 5. So that's really why I dove into IEP advocacy. I knew I needed to know how to get him the support that he needed. I write about our journey on a very small scale, but because we do see some aggressive behaviors and some things that are a little different than what other people are sharing sometimes. And then I do IEP advocacy work, which is how I met Kate, through writing, and we now have a nonprofit.
Cool. And so, Amanda, you are in the state of Ohio.
I am.
And Kate, you're in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you guys met just online at first, right? And
well, we actually met through a program called Vitals is how we met. We were connected. It's a program that connects police officers to children on the spectrum. And the founders of that came to me and they're like, we know this amazing mom. She's like a superhero. Her name is Amanda. And I popped on one of your lives, right, Amanda?
Yes. I fangirled so hard.
It was 1,000,000 years ago.
what's the program called?
I don't even know if it's a thing anymore, but it was called Vitals, and it connected police officers to kind of like Project Lifesaver.
Okay.
In a sense.
Yep.
Yeah. And then from there, Amanda followed me. I followed her back, and she just became such a huge part of my online world through blogging and through leadership and different parts.
Nice.
I'm pushy. I pushed my way in.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and I've met you both just online so far, but we will be meeting in person this spring, hopefully. But why don't we start with the beginning? When was More Than Project founded? What is it? How does this all work? Because I really, like my listeners, I know very little about it.
Amanda, how about I'll start and we'll tag team. So I have always had not always, but since Cooper was little, had an online presence that has grown fast. And when you live in the world of social media, there can be a lot of negativity. There can be a lot of just unkind things that happen. And I really wanted to build a community of moms, and I really wanted to find a safe space. And then I wanted to fill my cup up. I'm going to be honest. Like, it's great to like talk about different products and what helps us, but it's not where my passion lies. My passion is with moms and moms who are struggling. So during COVID, I really did a big push online through my supporter page to reach moms where they were at. So lots of live videos every day, bringing on guests like Amanda and other people. And one thing started to rise to the top. You take an isolated group of women, of caregivers, and you make them even more isolated, right? So you're taking away their children's therapies, you're taking away the one trip they go to respite for the week. And suddenly you have moms that are not getting the mental support that they need anymore. And they were coming to Amanda and I, it was rising up through comments and messages saying things like, I can't do this anymore. I'm heartbroken. I'm alone. There's no help. And what do? I'm in Minnesota. She's in Ohio. What do? You launch a nonprofit. So Amanda, do you want to kind of go from there and then I'll go again?
Sure. So our first focus was the caregiver, like Kate said, and we came with this idea of more than a caregiver. And we wanted to provide caregivers who were struggling with free telehealth counseling services free of charge in their home. They could do it after their kids went to bed. They could do it while their kids were napping. They didn't have to worry about respite. We wanted to bring all the barriers away and just bring counseling services to them. As we started to see this evolve, we're like, and the siblings are struggling and the teachers are still showing up. How do we support everyone? So what started as More Than a Caregiver umbrellaed into the More Than Project so that we can serve all of the people who support the special needs family, especially the caregiver.
So do you financially support telehealth counseling? Is that one of the things that the nonprofit does?
Yep. So we started out super grassroots. One thing about Amanda and I is we're big doers. So we're like, here's what we want to do. Let's find some money. So we started out just really simply raising money through t-shirt sales and online donations and, rallying people with the stories of these female caregivers who were struggling and raised the money. And what was nice was during COVID, there was not a moratorium on, areas that counselors could serve. So counselor in Minnesota could counsel anybody because things were done via telehealth. So it was very easy in the beginning. And we found counselors that understood the special needs family dynamic, which is something I've had a hard time finding. I've went to multiple counselors and I'm, explaining some of our situations and they're like, ooh, I don't understand what you're going through. Mary's nodding. It's very common. So Amanda found a wonderful agency that was able to partner with us and offer counseling to all the states. Then, wonderfully, COVID was lifted, or some of the restrictions were lifted, and suddenly we had to find individual counselors in each state. So now we're doing things a little bit differently, but hope to be back up to speed nationally soon.
Okay. So I know we're going to give the, website and things at the end, but for those of you, those listeners that are at their computer right now, where's the website or where can they go to find out more and also to make a donation, or if the caregiver is interested in some telehealth or counseling, what's the website or what's the area they can go?
So it's still under my website, which is findingcoopersvoice.com. And then there's a button for foundation. But a really great way to get a hold of us too is Instagram, the More Than Project, or Facebook, same, the More Than Project. And there's, different ways to donate or support us, even by buying products that we have partnerships with, or just a straight up donation.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw that you were partnering with organizations where adults like Lucas, who's 26 years of age now, like he might work somewhere and make things that you end up selling, and some proceeds go to the More Than Project. So like, do you have a lot of these organizations, or like, what do you sell? And is this all on the foundation part of Finding Cooper's Voice?
So the bracelets are what you saw, and that is through the Spotlight Project. And it was a school therapist who reached out to us and said, I employ adults with disabilities of varying. And they come into work, they do the planning, they do the making, they do the photos, they ship the orders. So it's this full circle life skills moment. And what we did in the beginning of that project was all of that money went to our More Than a Teacher initiative, where all of the money raised from these bracelets, $5 from each bracelet, went to buy sensory equipment. And we were able to give away 3 fully equipped sensory rooms through a partnership with Fun and Function. So if you go to the website link, the More Than Project bracelet is still there under the Spotlight Project.
Okay.
And it was like a full circle moment because it was employing kids like ours, right? They're being paid livable wages, they're doing all the work, they're learning, they're growing, and then we're giving back the money to the teachers who are helping the kids become, it was like so fun, and people just loved the project, which really, made us realize what we were doing matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because just like your kids were displaced and therapy stopped during COVID, adult services also stopped during COVID and were very disrupted. Lucas used to go to a pre-vocational program, and in the past, these been called sheltered workshops. But it was a mile from my house, and he was happy to go there Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 3 or something like that. And it was working for our family, and then it abruptly stopped. And so, and he's doing well. He's the only person I know that lost significant amounts of weight during COVID. He lost like 50 pounds and kept 40 of them off. People are like, how did he lose weight during COVID? But he used to eat a lot there, and he was very sedentary. And so it wasn't ideal. It was kind of going downhill for him and his needs before COVID, but it was something that I probably wouldn't have stopped because, he was going somewhere, he was safe, he was relatively happy there, you know what I mean? But when it did stop, and then he could go back part-time, but he'd have to wear a mask and all this, hoopla. I was like, you know what? I have services, coming to the home, and he's volunteering at the food bank almost every day. And, we kind of found another path. And so for him, it doesn't have to be like, this is it. And when something gets displaced, it doesn't mean that you have to go back, and, you might find different ways, but I know for Lucas and so many adults, like making things, is a strength, and putting things together. And, it's great that your More Than project actually partners with people and really brings a full circle to bring meaningful work, to these adults, and then to benefit
And
caregivers.
we're always looking for businesses. So one of our ideas I'll do a little sneak peek. One of our ideas for Christmas this year is maybe in November, as people are shopping, to highlight maybe 5, 6, 7 different businesses, just like the Spotlight Project, because, people want to give to good causes, and it's fun to have a gift to give as a result. So that's one of our hopes. We're seeking out businesses now.
Yeah. I mean, that reminds me of, a podcast that I did with Susie Carpenter's a mom and her daughter Kelly, who grew up around us, and she's Lucas's age, but Kelly drives, and she takes beautiful pictures, and I think she has an Etsy store, so we can link her show in the show notes here. And also she might be one of those organizations that you can get a pack of 4 cards, and they're nice thank you cards, and it really does support somebody on the spectrum, which is awesome.
So we were able to connect with Susie. She sent boxes and boxes of delicious pretzels for our retreat that we just had in September. She's amazing. She's a wonderful mom.
Yeah. She is, and she's a good friend of mine, so that's awesome. So you're already connected. And we can definitely link that in the show notes. It's a great episode. Okay, so you also did something with siblings, the More Than Sibling Project. So can you talk about that?
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to do it? Are you?
Sure, go ahead. Yep.
So I have a huge passion for the siblings. I think, Sawyer was 2 years apart, 2 years younger than Cooper. still to this day, I have healed from so many things that have happened. I have grown so much, but I still have really big feelings around sibling guilt. And I speak very openly about that in my book, Forever Boy. I talk about it publicly. And we wanted to recognize, and how did we word it? The tiny ones born into advocacy, the tiny humans born into it. And, that's what Sawyer was. Sawyer was born into this, and he suddenly is advocating at school and for his peers. And during his conferences, they're saying, he may be behind here, but he is the nice kid. And that to me is because of Cooper and because of the way we raised him. So we held I'll call it a contest, but we just asked for nominations of siblings, and they didn't all come in from moms. Some came in from aunts or friends or different people, and put together a little video, a little compilation reel, and then pick 3 winners. And we wanted to give them some sort of scholarship to bring them something that they wouldn't normally get, like something that would never happen, like a trip to Disney World or, something out of the norm. And that was really fun. I think we should do that. I mean, we'll probably do that again every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, as most listeners know, and you two know, I have a son who was 18 months younger than Lucas, and his name is Spencer. And he's actually on the biggest fan favorite podcast ever, is my interview with Spencer, who's in med school now. And we did that in my video studio live when he was home during COVID before he started medical school and flew back to New Orleans. So we will link that in the show notes. And in a lot of ways, I don't know your son, and you have a daughter, right, Amanda? But, in a lot of ways, the Cooper and Sawyer connection and the younger brother being the advocate is just so reminds me of Lucas and Spencer in so many ways. So we'll link that in the show notes. But yeah, we don't just talk about Spencer and his experience, but we talk about siblings in general. He didn't want to see any of the questions ahead of time. I did some research on siblings and asked him some questions, and he's quite an advocate. And even when he was, going through high school, Lucas went to the same public high school, but he was in special education. But some of the higher language kids were in Spencer's class, in the musicals with him, and I remember a choral trip where, there was a boy that was, fully conversational, but he was definitely on the spectrum, and Spencer knew that. And somebody came up in New York City. It was like, hey, can I borrow, some money? And it was kind of targeting this kid, a stranger. And Spencer told me, he went over, he told the kid to put his wallet away and told the guy to get lost. And, I think our kids just have that radar of hey, here's somebody that needs more help. And I think they'll all be really amazing advocates and very resilient in the end. But it is tough when you're like, man, so much focus on autism, so much focus on splitting up as a family, and when we can't really do that, because how's that going to be? And it's hard to kind of include the whole family unit for a lot of things. We just went to a family wedding though, and it is special when it does. For my family, at least, we're getting to the point where it's not a struggle. It's just, okay, Lucas can do this. Lucas will be happy there. And Lucas he danced, he loved it, and he had a great time. So, yeah.
I just did a book signing in Arizona, and it was a great turnout. It was so fun. And this little girl, I heard this little voice. She raised her hand. She had to have been 6 or 7. And she goes, does Koopa ever hit you or Sawyer? She's like, because my brother, he hurts me sometimes, and he hurts my mom, and the mom's sobbing next to her, right? I mean, and I'm trying to hold it back. And it's like, these kids, there are so many blessings to having a sibling with a disability. I firmly believe that. But there are hard parts, and sometimes we brush over them. So, Amanda and I were like, let's recognize some of these kids. Let's just tell them that we're thankful for them.
Right.
And we had a retreat in September where we were able to bring caregivers together in person, which is a whole thing in itself, the power of that. But one of the speakers, her message was, doing what's best for your whole family. Because like you said, for so long, we're focused just on autism or just on whatever the disability diagnosis is. And that's a real mind shift, I think, for us with two littles is we have to start looking at the whole family because there is a life to live and there are experiences that my daughter also has to have. So I think the permission to think that way is important.
Yeah. And you did just do a camp, like a weekend camp. It looked so much fun. I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, that looks amazing. So that's part of the More Than project too, where you hold in-person events?
So yes, and it was a surprise because I am the planner. Kate is the yes. So we were on a Zoom planning to discuss the opportunity, and the woman who organizes the camp was like, well, you should come. Kate's like, yes, we will be there. So I panicked. But it was amazing. It was like we sent 90 moms away to summer camp for 3 days. We were worried that we wouldn't even have 15. That was the minimum to hold it. We ended up with about 90 to 95. And we were worried about icebreakers and games and get to know you activities. And from the minute they checked in, the lakefront view was full of moms sitting in chairs, and the fire was full of women sitting around the fire, sharing their stories, talking about their children, talking about themselves finally, because I think we forget how to do that a little bit. And we were able to bring some tears, some laughter, some amazing giveaways, and just really build bonds. Kate, I think you shared about it. One of the moms said, I received more support in the 48 hours I've been here than I've ever received before with a child with autism.
Wow.
And she actually had skipped her. I mean, everyone has a story. That's what, and Mary can relate to this too, with the size of her platform, but like everyone has a story and everyone tells me their story and they're all powerful and they're all important. And what we did was we gave 90 women the opportunity to share their stories, and they could share it, privately, or they could stand up and tell their story. But the woman the quote that Amanda just said, she skipped her sister's baby shower or wedding shower or something because she needed this. She's like, I need this. Another mom was saying that she, my mind just went blank. Another mom, what was the other really powerful story? Oh, another mom told me that the same day her son was diagnosed with autism, her nephew, the same age little boy, was diagnosed with cancer. Very tragic. And he's fine. He's in remission. But she's like, I got no support for my son with autism for 2 years because we were so focused on, and all these stories rise up to the top. And it's like, we just gave these women an opportunity to just share. And that's all they're looking for, is to share and for someone to understand.
Mm-hmm. And I don't talk about this much, but I when Lucas was diagnosed, it was 1999. So it was before really it was before any Facebook groups or before any online platforms. I mean, online AOL and, very primitive internet was kind of available in some households. So I was just like, he was diagnosed and I was looking for a support group, and the support group that was just hobbling along, like, closed. And I was like, well, this is nuts. I mean, people need support. So we founded, me and like 5 friends I met just right away on the journey. We founded the Autism Society in my county. And it was a lot of work. I mean, you guys, you're kind of like, oh yeah, we started a nonprofit and we're raising money and we're partnering. Like, that all takes, for those of you listening, hours and hours and hours and hours. And these 2 women are already up to, their eyeballs in work and opportunities and dedication to their families. And it's amazing that you guys would even bite off any of that. So I applaud you for that. But, some of my dearest friends are still my autism mom friends that I met at the very beginning. And because I have such a wide, over 2 decades here, and as both a parent and as a professional, I've worked with many of the kids in the county through a statewide grant that I was in schools, working as a behavior analyst, helping teachers and speech therapists. And, but I got to see kids, like, I go to the gym, a couple times a week and work out with a trainer. And the kid that comes after me, I worked with him when he was in 5th or 6th grade. I had no idea that he'd be able to drive, to have a job, and to go to the trainer. It's amazing to see where some kids have been and where they have come full circle. And I see, families getting through tough times and also getting support. I mean, but the online community, like I have a community with my courses, and you can get very, very close to people, and never meet them online. I mean, never meet them in person, like, in fact, we just, Kelsey, who works with me, and she does a podcast with me, she's my community manager, she lives in British Columbia, Canada, and we never met. And she's been with me since 2016 in some capacity. And we just met just in August of 2022 when I went on a cruise, and we stopped in British Columbia, Canada, and she and her boys came and met me. But it's so special, like, to have that physical connection. But at the same time, it's really not necessary. You can get very, very close to people and get a lot of support online. Mm-hmm. And I know with Coop's Troops, which Amanda and I are both a part of, that's Kate's paid Facebook group. It's a very minimal charge every month. But I mean, that is lots of support. And I'm sure people meet there all the time and meet offline as well. And have their groups.
In every presentation I do, my message that always rises up is find one person. So whether you're finding them online, you're finding them in person, wherever, just find one person that you can exchange a number with and text and message and send funny photos to, whatever it may be. It's life-changing to have that one person. And one thing I want to add about the event that we just had. So I've been hosting events now for a couple of years, and I always think it's going to be Minnesota people, right? It's going to be 100% Minnesota people, maybe some Wisconsin trickling in. My event that I had last April for a couple hundred moms, 75% of the people flew in. This event that we just had, because we didn't do the registration, the camp did the registration for us. As people were checking in, we have Massachusetts, we have California, we have Ohio, Indiana, Georgia, Montana. And we're like, what? You flew in and then you rented a car and drove 4 hours, and some of them came alone. They needed the support so bad. So, people are always like, I wish this was close to me. Well, if you can financially make it work, if you can get a grant, or if you can, use your waiver money or whatever, you can come and you can be part of this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So I know you were planning a big event, April 30th?
29th and 30th.
29th and 30th, April 29th and 30th. It's over a weekend, and there is a excellent chance, 95% chance, that I will be presenting there as a keynote, and maybe some breakouts and stuff like that. So let us know what that event is going to be. Where is it going to be, like vicinity wise, and what you're hoping. This is all through the More Than Project too.
Yep. So this will be the second annual event that we're throwing in Minnesota. And it's a 2-day event this year. Last year was 1 day. Last year was a beautiful brunch on a Sunday. My keynotes were Carrie Cariello and Jackie Moore of Jordan Summer Shirt Project. So proud of those two ladies. I call them my friends. They're just inspiring. And we just pampered women for a day. That's what we did. We had about 155, 60 women that came. Just kind of went for it, right? Now this year, we got the feedback that it was too short. There was not enough time with me, which I understand. People do come in a sense to say hi and to give me a hug and tell their story. And so this year we're going to have it as a 2-day event. So Saturday will be a typical education type style day with hopefully Mary and other speakers and breakout sessions, and then time with me. And then Sunday will be that beautiful brunch with champagne and mimosas, and Adrienne Wood of Tales of an Educated Debutante is going to be the keynote for that day. I'm sure she's going to bring in a lot of people with her, as she typically does. And, the focus again is just, I always keep going back to the care for the caregiver. It's like, let's just bring these women together. Let's connect them. And I'll tell you, a lot of the fun that happens isn't at the actual event. It's at the hotel that everyone stays at. They have so much fun. We'll women break off and have dinner and get to know each other. And so even if you don't know anyone, come. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So, how can people kind of start looking for that information and registration? Because I'm sure it's going to sell out. You're planning on like
It will.
250-ish people, but it's going to sell out. So, how can people kind of get in on the waiting list to find out more?
Yep. So registration will most likely open up in November. We want to give people enough time to plan. The fee for the whole entire weekend, not including lodging, but for the events and that sort of thing will be probably around $200. And we know that that's a substantial amount of money for some people, so we want to make sure people can plan for that. So the website will be live soon. Mary might be live before we even go live. So we'll have that for you to share in your show notes. And the other thing that we're looking for is we always want sponsors. We want businesses that care about these families, that care about these moms to donate, whether it's products or cash or time or whatever it may be. We want to recognize those vendors by giving them logos on t-shirts and logos on pamphlets and whatever it may be in recognition. Not many brands understand how important this group of caregivers is. So when we find ones that do, we shout their praises from the rooftops.
Yeah. So just keep watching Finding Cooper's Voice. If by chance registration comes out before this episode airs, I can send an email, put it on social media, and we're just finalizing me doing the keynote. But I'm super excited to meet both Amanda and Kate and a lot of the moms, and there's many moms that are big fans of your work, as well as my listeners, my course participants. There's a lot of overlap because I think you guys, Amanda's like key with IEPs and those sorts of things, which is so critical. Kate, you're, so supportive and caregiver support. And I'm more of the educate yourself, become the captain of the ship, be the coordinator and make it work. But I think we have kind of three different lenses for the same audience that we're there to support them in all of these areas. So I think it's a great connection, and I'm sure our listeners will really want to know more. And if they can't make it this year, this seems to be going to be an annual thing. And it'll be super fun to get out there. It will be my first event probably in person since before COVID. So
are you in California?
No, I'm in Pennsylvania.
Okay, and I'm coming to Pittsburgh.
Are you? When is that?
Have you heard of the Autism Caring Center?
No.
Have you, Amanda? It's close.
Only about, I would say it's only about 45 minutes from where I am. Yep.
So I'm going to be the keynote for their presentation in April.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, you'll have to send information on that. We can put that in the show notes too. Even just the general website so people can attend. I'm about 5 hours from Pittsburgh, but only about an hour from Philadelphia. So I'm more on the eastern side of Pennsylvania. But
and if people can't make it in April, we have the Caregiver Respite Retreat in September or October.
You're going to do like more of like a casual camp thing again in September, or are you going to vary it? Yeah, you're thinking.
Yeah, the cabins were the best part of the whole thing that we didn't anticipate being. But like Kate said, a lot of the connection comes in the hotel after when parents break off, and that's exactly what we saw here in the cabin setting. It was really, it was a lot of fun. It was so interesting, and they. Like Kate said, the further they drove towards the camp, the more they unplugged, the more they relaxed, the more their worry faded away from what they were leaving at home so that they could truly rest and reset. And it was amazing. We had tears, we had laughter. And one of our, oh, absolutely. one of the speakers, Shaletta, her message was everyone in this room has problems and everyone in this room is the answer to someone else's problem. And I thought that was so powerful because like Kate has said, like you've said, Mary, we all have a story to tell. That is the answer to someone's problem. Just sharing your story and getting, the support from other moms, I think is just so important. So if they can't make April, we have another event.
All right, cool. Well, I like to wrap up the same way, and maybe we can kind of do an extended version, but part of my podcast goals is not to just help the kids, but help the parents and professionals listening be less stressed and lead happier lives. So out of your years of experience, and even just the last couple of years with the More Than Project, like what are your top tips for stress relief and stress management, being happier, self-care skills? We'll start with you, Amanda. What would you tell a caregiver? And does it depend on what level of functioning the child is or the age of the child? So can you talk, if you want to give kind of tips for different situations, or if it's all the same from your mind?
So as my husband and I have worked through, the struggles and the changes that come with autism, one thing that we have learned is we are saying one thing, but we mean something else. So our communication is broken down there. Functional communication has really helped us both say when we need a break, when we can't do it anymore, and when the other person needs to walk away. So for a long time, I would snap or say something that was maybe a bit sarcastic, and that wasn't doing anyone any good because I wasn't telling him what I truly needed. I need to walk away. I need a break. I need to reset. So now what I'll do is say what I need to say and then say, but what I meant to say was, and clarify, because neither one of us can be all in all the time. We have to be able to walk away so that we can stay at our calm, stay at de-escalation. So giving the other person permission to say, I've got this and you can walk away, or the flip of that, has been really helpful for us to preserve ourselves when things are very escalated and chaotic. So functional communication is really hard for adults. It's really hard for adults, but we've really worked on that, and it's helped us feel better about ourselves and be able to stay more grounded in this journey.
That's great. How about you, Kate? Do you have any stress management tips for us or self-care skills?
I do. I have a few things. I'm a mom of 4, so I feel like I just live in constant chaos and mess and noise. And it is what it is. It's not an autism thing. It's a kid thing. My number one piece of advice I always give families is make your home a safe space. Make your home a fun space. And like in our case, we can't really go many places. Autism makes that more challenging. We can't really do restaurants or travel, so we work really hard to make our home a fun space, whether that's a theater room or a swimming pool or whatever, outdoor movies. We do all of those things. We also make our home safe. So when we're here, we're not walking on eggshells. That means door alarms and fences and locks and cameras. It's life-changing to be able to sit in one space and know that your child is safe in another space. I always say once you've reached that, you've reached the second half of life. Ask for help. I know this sounds so silly, but for 10, maybe 9, 10 years, I was too proud to ask for help. No one could help me. No one could help me. No one could care for Cooper like I could. I didn't want to bring them into our weird world. I didn't want to burden them. People really do want to help. I have friends that I've met on this autism journey that really do want to help. Maybe it's not your mom or dad, but maybe it's a friend from high school or a friend that you've met in Coops Troops or whatever it may be. Ask for help. Another one is share your story with the people that can make a difference in your life. So be open and honest, whether that's a social worker or a teacher or a therapist. I sugarcoated everything. I was that dog in the burning fire, drinking the coffee, the meme, saying it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. It wasn't fine. It wasn't. And I was able to make it out of it, but some parents can't. Some parents get stuck there. And the last thing that I want to say is that this has been the most life-changing thing for our family is find something that you can do as a family. Find one activity. We didn't have one thing that we could do together outside of our home for 10 years. Now, that puts a lot of stress on siblings. That puts a lot of animosity. It splits your family in two, and it means one's going and one's staying, and there's anger there and there's frustration. Our thing is boating. So we found out that Cooper loves to go on the boat. He will spend time on the boat. So do our other kids. But it took us 10 years to figure that out. So if, your mom listening right now and you're like, there's nothing, there's something.
Yeah.
Keep pushing and keep digging to find it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for us, it's restaurants. Lucas always loves to eat out. He would eat out every single meal. And so for us, it's restaurants is always a given that we can do that as a family. But, there's been so many things that we can't do. And it's just not fair. It's not fair, to a sibling to have to deal with that on top of, a birthday party at an ice skating rink or whatever that, if it's the child with autism isn't going to, and it's not just the sibling, but like if that child, we didn't bring Lucas on a family cruise. My whole extended family, I actually won a cruise on an online marketing competition, and 15 of us went, and we left Lucas home with caregivers because it wasn't just like he's not going to impede on our fun. He's just not going to have as much fun and peace as he would in his own environment without all the changes and without disrupting his routine. So I think those are all great points, is like, look for things you can do. And for boating, that's amazing. Lucas actually does like to boat, but we don't go boating that much, but yeah, I think that's great. All right. Well, I am thrilled to know more about the More Than Project. I think you guys, my hat is off to you for taking this on, creating this. I really see it expanding and being much more than 2 live events, which is huge a year. I mean, our local autism society is still going strong. There are support groups that are still in your local area. If you want to try to find them, search for local autism support groups in your city and state. See if you can connect with people locally, because they also know kind of where the services are or who's the good occupational therapy, or if there's waiting lists here or there. So connect with people locally if you can. Also connect on Finding Cooper's Voice and Coop's Troops. And there's lots of ways to connect. And I think all these ways, we need it. We need a lot of support. So I'm so looking forward to attending and speaking at the More Than event on April 29th and 30th. Mark it on your calendars. Find out all the information and register early, because I am positive it will sell out. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.